Jerry Jones is in the Hall of Fame, and he just got his biggest win of the year last night because it was announced that Robert Kraft will not be a part of the 2025 Pro Football Hall of Fame class. Congrats, Jerry. Big win there. That's the only win he's getting this season, it feels like. But once again, Robert Kraft not in the Hall of Fame. I won't spend too much time on this because I did a whole 20-minute rant on this last month. But it is ridiculous. It is ridiculous that Robert Kraft is not in the Hall of Fame and will not be once again this year. Now, are there some weird things that Kraft has done in sort of a Hall of Fame campaign that he's denying? Yes. The Apple documentary, not good. I didn't even finish it. I thought it was a bad look for the Kraft family, really. But I've gone two different ways with this. There are plenty of people who say, why should Robert Kraft be in the Hall of Fame? He's an owner. Okay, but owners are in the Hall of Fame. I think they've got a referee in the Hall of Fame. If you're going to put owners in the Hall of Fame, there are not, 3 or 5 more owners more influential in the history of this league than Robert Kraft. I mean, again, we're talking about saving the sport in one of the biggest markets in the sport and laying the seeds and the groundwork for, again, the greatest dynasty in pro sports with what they had to accomplish. And you can say, oh, it's all Belichick and it's all Brady. Sure. I mean, those are the guys who they should get the overwhelming share of the credit pie here. But Bob Kraft did go out on a limb to get Bill Belichick. Lest we forget. I know the situation is icy now, and he's trying to throw Belichick under the bus, which I hate. I really hate. But let's not forget, Belichick was kind of third rail at that point. Everyone remembers how it ended in Cleveland, even though that's not his fault. And he ends up basically taking an entry-level job with the Patriots in 96, and they go to the Super Bowl. He's back on Parcells' staff with the Jets. And then he leaves the Jets after 5 seconds as the head coach. And it was toxic. Nobody wanted this guy. And Bob Kraft was just coming off Pete Carroll, and all the guys in his defensive backs, his Lawyer Malloys and his Ty Laws are telling him, go after this guy. This is the guy we need. But again, there was worries about, is he too much of a nerd and not more of a football guy? And is he just a defensive coordinator? And Bob Kraft went out and traded a first-round pick to go and get this guy. Everyone in New England was like, what the hell are we doing here? Pete Carroll took this team to the playoffs. You got rid of him, and you're spending a first-round pick on this failed Cleveland coach? What are you doing? To just go after the Parcells well again, even though we know how that ended with Kraft? And yeah, it worked. It worked big time. He also revolutionized what teams are doing with their stadiums. That's something that he doesn't get a lot of credit for. And there are still teams that are trying to get the taxpayers to pay for their new stadiums, and that still happens. But Kraft privately funded this at Gillette and started building all around it. You go to any new stadium, any stadium that's built in the last 15 years in the NFL, and it's not just a stadium. Okay, there are shops, there are restaurants, there are hotels, there are small towns built around these stadiums. I can go 100 miles to the north and find it in Arlington. They're doing a pretty damn good job with that. Kraft was the first one to do that, because when you do that and you privately fund it and it's privately owned, you get all of that game day revenue. You don't have to share it with the rest of the league like you would if it was just a publicly funded, publicly owned stadium. So once again, Bob Kraft on the cutting edge and does have a hand in the greatest dynasty in the history of the sport. But he's not a Hall of Famer. Jerry Jones can't get his team to a conference championship in the last 30 years. 30 years. We're putting him in the Hall of Fame over Bob Kraft. That doesn't sit well with me. If we're going to put owners in the Hall of Fame, which I don't even want anyway, but if we're going to put owners in the Hall of Fame, Bob Kraft would be in the top 5 that I would put in there. I just think it's a joke that he's not. And this is not good for the Kraft family, because the more this gets prolonged, the Patriots are going to suck here. And it's not going to look good. And the more that he's throwing Belichick under the bus, the worse it looks. So, Bob, maybe stop. Maybe stop doing that. Stop with the books and the documentaries and the radio hits and the Breakfast Club. Stop. Because you could George Seifert this thing. George Seifert is the only coach who coached himself out of the Hall of Fame with that horrible Panthers stint. Don't do that with these next few years with the Patriots. Okay? Just sit in the back, sit on your little reclined seat, makes you look taller up in the booth, sit with Bon Jovi and your son and clap along and hope this Drake May thing turns out right. But it is ridiculous that he's not in the Hall of Fame and all these other owners are. It just doesn't make sense to me, because it's not because he's not the old money. Jerry's the only new money guy that's in there for owners. And that's not relatively new money, right? Like the rest are the Maras and the Rooneys and the DeBartolos. And I mean, Eddie DeBartolo is in there. He's scamming people. He's running Ponzi schemes, man. He's defrauding governments. And they're going to keep Bob Kraft out because he paid a little extra for a hand job? Like, give me a break. Give me a break.
We are Rogue Media Sports.